One. Welcome to Spenny and the Nets, episode 255. We took a brief hiatus with the show for the last few weeks, but we are back and we are better than ever as the NBA 2025-26 season officially concluded on Saturday night. We are joined today by diehard Brooklyn Nets fan, Corey Cantor. Corey, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. It's always good to have a event sesh slash Nets therapy, especially after the last season. So appreciate you having me on.
Of course, if anything, we got to remind ourselves that there are other Nets fans out there that we can talk about this loss with. And by loss, I mean the Knicks championship win. So let's just get right into it. And before we do, Corey, tell everyone where they can follow you on Twitter, and then we're gonna get right into it.
Yeah, so they can follow me on Corey B. Cantor on Twitter. I do a lot of electric vehicle work, so I'd say that my tweets are half electric vehicle stats, half net stuff. Um, Especially during times like this, maybe mostly net stuff of me complaining. But yeah, can find me there. Can find me on LinkedIn if you're interested in ED stuff. More work and boring and less nets on LinkedIn now.
I've been a follower of Corey's for a while, and he has some excellent Nets takes. That's why I wanted to have him on the show to talk today. Let's rip off the Band-Aid. The Knicks beat the Spurs 94 to 90 in game five. Just a dominant playoff run for New York. They lost three games in their route to their first title since I believe 1973. Jalen Brunson capped off game five with 45 points, and he is your finals MVP. This Knicks team had a slightly up and down NBA season. I mean, it's not like they were perfect by any means. They finished third in a pretty weak Eastern Conference. But come playoff time, Corey, they were the more ready team in every single series they faced. They were the more prepared team, and that includes San Antonio. As a
Yeah.
Nets fan, this was one of the toughest runs that I think we've ever had to endure. I loathe the Knicks. I loathe their fan base with every fiber of my being, but I can't deny how good they were this postseason. And the roster they had, while maybe in the regular season they weren't the most dominant or best team in the league, come postseason, it was the perfectly constructed roster. You had a clear cut number one in Jalen Brunson. You had a clear
Hmm.
cut number two in Karl Anthony Towns. You had two of the best Swiss Army knives in the league in OG and Josh Hart. They play a similar style game. I think OG's a much better scorer, but when you talk about players that can kind of do a little bit of everything, that's those two in a nutshell. You have a top 10 role player in the league at this point in Mikal Bridges, I would say, and then a top five big man defender in the league in Mitchell Robinson.
Robinson. Yeah.
And you have this reliable bench where you have pieces like Landry Shamet, Jose Alvarado, Jordan Clarkson, and Deuce McBride, and it results in a championship. So credit to Leon Rose. I was pissed, I was bitter, I was angry this entire playoffs. I digress. Corey, give me some of your thoughts on what transpired over the last few weeks.
Yeah, and honestly, major credit to Mike Brown, who is also a Sacramento alum. You'd hope that basically the Kings look down both on Jordy and Mike Brown. But I think your key point there on the extended rotation really is a credit to Brown. Because if you go back to last year in Thibodeau, who is also, I think, a very good coach, he just overplayed his starters. And by Brown giving people like Shamet a real chance during the season, or Alvarado, who I have too many Nick fan friends, and one friend who's a Pelicans fan and a Knick fan because he went to school in New Orleans. And it's just going for a player like Alvarado, who you know is a dog and was already good and maybe being misused. Those kind of diamonds in the rough that I hope the Nets can emulate that. Plus Brown having the faith in them, I think made all the difference. I mean, we knew before this year that Brunson was good and that OG Anunoby was good, but I think the two changes that Brown did that actually resulted in them winning it all was running the offense through Towns, right? And taking someone who I think was always kind of a mismatch on teams. And then secondly, the extended rotation. So yeah, you had to kind of just hang your hat on them. Kills me to give them so many compliments, but they earned it. They're the champs. And, San Antonio really, I think, showing their inexperience. So much talent there. I mean, local hero Dylan Harper looked amazing. And I really love Stefan Castle. I think he's a great player. Um, but the rest of the team, Wemby, looking like he's still too young. Fox barely being a vet. Champagny, I think, had some nice minutes, but they had almost the opposite of the Knicks, where the rotation felt too small, or the GM didn't go and make the extra trade at the trade deadline. And I think we'll get into it when we talk Nets, but I bet there's a bunch of teams in the playoffs that wish they would have gone for Nick Claxton or Michael Porter Jr. last trade deadline, and came up short.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the nail of the head in terms of the Spurs and the inexperience. I I had a pretty good feeling that the Knicks would win this series, and I thought about it historically. Great teams have to lose first before they win. Very rarely
Yeah,
do great, I think actually the 99 Spurs are kind of an exception to that, where that Tim Duncan, David Robinson team, which was sort of a new iteration. I know Robinson had been there for a few years, but Duncan won. I don't know if that was his rookie season. It was early in his career.
early. Yeah,
So he's probably the exception, but every other guy you can think of, Kobe in those
LeBron.
series, yeah, LeBron obviously had to lose before he could win. OKC had trouble in the postseason until they broke through and won. The list goes on and on. Like the Boston Celtics had to lose to the Warriors to be able to beat the Mavs 2, 3 years later. You just had a feeling, and the fact that this was sort of the first year that this group of guys on the Spurs were playing together, whereas the Knicks had been through the ringer the last few seasons, the
Right.
heartbreak with Indiana last season. Um, I don't remember who they lost. Oh, Atlanta a few years ago, where Trae Young rolled the dice. Like they had to go through those heartbreaking losses in the postseason to come back and be mentally tough in this series.
And
De'Aaron
it's a
Fox, yeah, I'm sorry, go on.
I was gonna say it makes me think of like, is this Knicks team moving forward? Are they going to be seen as like the 2004 Detroit Pistons or the Dirk Mavs when they won theirs, where it's like a guy like Brunson finally had the people around him to take it, to win it all, or if it's going to be more of like and I'm using this Steph Curry analogy, not to say the Knicks are as good as those Warriors, but more, is this going to be an extended thing or just the one-off team that Knicks fans are going to be talking about? I think a lot of that has to deal with how the East responds, and I think there's reasons to think of them more like that. But that Pistons team in 2004, right? Chauncey Billups became like a god to Pistons fans for pulling that, or Dirk, finally getting one, and you're like, okay, a lot had to go right, but Dirk had worked towards it. Ironic also that the Mavericks were the team that lost Luca and Brunson
Yeah.
all those years later. You were saying on Fox, though. Yeah, Fox has.
Honestly, Fox is a bum, and we don't have to get into because actually, you asked my next question here. Are they a team that you think can create a dynasty, or do we think that the Knicks are one and done, like Milwaukee, like the LeBron Lakers, like the Jokic Nuggets? At least up to this point, I would lean toward yes, them being one and done, only because again, this is not to downplay what they did. The playoff run, it was dominant. You play who's in front of you.
Yeah,
Having said that, they didn't have to play Boston. They didn't have to play Detroit. They played a Cleveland team with James Harden and as their leader, and we know what James Harden historically does in the playoffs. They played an Atlanta team where an aging CJ McCollum had to carry Atlanta through 3 games, and then they lost steam and they beat them. Um, Philadelphia wasn't supposed to be in the postseason. They were not supposed to be a playoff team. They got in. They beat the Celtics in a ridiculously emotional 7 game series, and then yeah, they let down and they get smoked by the Knicks. And then like we talked about San Antonio in depth, young inexperienced team. So just based on what happened, I'd have to lean the opposite. That once the East does get better, once Giannis, goes to Miami and Washington becomes a factor and Boston
yeah.
figures is out a little bit, you get a healthier Jason Tatum for a whole year. You have to think that when competition increases, like will the Knicks be able to answer the call? I don't know. And as a hater, I'm just gonna lean that towards that they won't. That's it.
I think that basically the way that the Knicks will have to be beat is the other teams getting better. This isn't like a case where, some people are at the end of their contract and you can just say, um, and that's actually, it plays into the Nets picks that they have for the Knicks later. This Knicks team feels like it'll be together through at least another year or two. So it's going to have to be those other East teams now saying we can't afford to. And I think part of the reason, and this isn't talking down the Knicks, but just saying about the East in general this year, there was a lot of like, let's punt, right? The Pacers saying it's an off year, we're not going to try and compete. This draft is so good, we're going to tank. Or the Celtics even being like, we didn't even know if this is going to be a year because Tatum won't be back. I think the Sixers were maybe a positive surprise, although they're kind of a team stuck in two timelines, which is a problem. So I'm not sure if like the Knicks will be a dynasty per se, but the rest of the East has to now go out and say, we're going to be better than these guys and prove it, and not just say like, oh, it's the Knicks, we're going to like let them implode.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it'll be interesting in terms of the West to see what the Spurs do this offseason. Like I brought up Fox because he was so abysmal in this final series. He's under a foot four. He has 4 years on his contract remaining for a lot of money. I don't see a team wanting to pick up that contract if they're serious about winning right now. But they got to figure it out because Dylan Harper is a superstar.
It's so good.
He was the only guy for San Antonio that showed up night in, night out. It seems like every time he touched the ball, something positive would happen. Um, so they got to figure it out with Fox.
Yeah, you just can't have a situation, and this is the downside of an approach like San Antonio is setting up. It's not so much about bringing the vet in, right? Like if they brought in CJ McCollum, right, as opposed to Fox, similar player, obviously McCollum's older, but you know what your role is. With Fox, it's like we're giving you the extension, and then we're going to pull the rug from you. He did not. I mean, he had a terrible performance, and unfortunately for the Spurs, they don't have the pick assets to be like, oh, here's a gold pick, we'll dump them, right? Without adding something else. In another situation, right, if you're the Nets, you would say, okay, if Fox had 2 years on his contract and you're attaching a couple picks, you'd say, you know what, 2 years, not a big deal, but I can't see them getting off that contract. And then if anything, you might have more friction with with Harper moving forward. One thing, if Greg Popovich is your coach, I don't know if Mitch Johnson will be able to handle it, but we'll see.
Yeah, he
He was
had Mitch.
yeah, what do you think of his coaching job?
So a little bit of story time here. I was on a bachelor party this past weekend, a little trip with some buddies in Saratoga Springs.
Love
And we
that.
watched we watched the Nets game at an Airbnb on Saturday night. It was like 15 of us. I think there were two Nets fans, so 13 Knicks fans, and one Celtics fan, one Celtics fan. But down the stretch, after De'Aaron Fox had like three or four misses in a row, and the Knicks went on like an 8-0 or 10-0, they basically took over the game at that point. The Spurs were cooked. I looked at everyone. I hadn't said much the entire game, and I just go, well, at least De'Aaron Fox is getting to his spots. That's the kind of coaching job that Mitch Johnson did. To have the same game plan for four losses, which was De'Aaron Fox ISO ball down the stretch. Maybe he gets a screen from Wemby, and it just did. It worked one game on one possession for
Yep.
Fox when he hit that jumper in game three. But outside of that, in every single ball game, it just felt like, okay, guys, let's let De'Aaron Fox take over. And I don't understand why that was the strategy. Run offense through Wemby, let Dylan Harper get some touches, even let Stephon Castle get some touches at that point. But it didn't make sense to me. And that was 100% on the coach.
Yeah, I think his coaching was subpar. And, again, like coaches, I'll use Joe Mazzulla as an example. He had an atrocious first kind of like playoff run and then did get better. If I was the Spurs ownership, I would give him one more shot, more so, just like you said, with the young, inexperienced team. I think after that, your seat gets pretty hot. But I think it's also a GM failure. And maybe it's because they didn't expect him to be this good, but you see this all the time with teams. And Detroit's another example. And I brought up MPJ before, but use him or any other player where it's like, you know what, we don't want to give the Nets a first round pick. We don't want to go all in this year. And then you get to the finals, you're like, no one on the Spurs could create offense for themselves, right? They don't have a Porter Jr. type where it's like, oh, he's a big wing and he can
Right.
hit threes or he can hit mid range. And Wemby's better at threes, but he's not a self-starter enough on offense yet. And even if he was, it can't just be him and a bunch of guards. And so I think it's on Mitch Johnson. But yeah, the Spurs didn't go out and get any guys for him. OKC has this issue sometimes, although to Presti's credit, he went and got McCain from Philly. And that, even though they lost the series, that was a great get for them.
And Jalen Williams, if he was healthy,
That's it.
he
Yeah.
offensively he can create his own shots. I have three things from what you said. No, let's see if I can remember them all. Number one, Wemby 100% needs more of a bag offensively. Whether it's perfecting the mid range, whether it's working on any sort of post up game, he's got to figure out some go to moves on offense because right now it is kind of if he's open for three, shoot a three. He has this sort of wraparound move and it works because he has a longer wingspan than everyone where he can kind of bank it off glass with either hand. And obviously around the rim, he's a monster. Once he gets
Yeah.
around the rim, it's pretty much game over. But he needs to round out the rest of his offensive game and work on the post up, work on sort of mid range moves. Watch study film on Kevin Durant, see how he does it, and go from there.
Yeah.
That
Totally
was my
agree.
first thing. Yeah. The second thing, hypothetical, great hypothetical for you. If the Spurs had Michael Porter Jr. instead of De'Aaron Fox, do you think they win this finals?
Yes, because they still have Dylan Harper and these other guys. And it could be MPJ, it could be literally like any wing. Like that's what they felt like. And also like backup center, right? Maybe they should have called up for Dayon Sharp and overpaid for him because Hornet it's just Wemby couldn't be off the floor. And there was such a fall off between him and is it Luke Cornett? That yeah. So I think whatever net you want to pick or other team, um, the Spurs just thanks to the gift of Adam Silver giving them top picks, they're not really as aggressive on trades as they have to be. And one thing I'll give the Knicks a lot of credit for, right, and Leon Rose a lot of credit for is this was not a team built with a high pick. Right, this is the countervailing to, and I was on pro like we should get as bad a draft pick, position as possible this year. But there are many ways to kind of build a championship team, and smart trades is another one. And so, Spurs really didn't do that. Knicks did, and it came out looking good.
The only thing I would say, you're absolutely right. I guess the OG Anunoby trade for RJ Barrett, I would consider
Yeah,
that a high draft pick, but they moved it and they moved him, they moved RJ in quickly and they got better. And then the final thing, sort of a two-part question for you, and then we're gonna move on to the Nets. This is
yeah.
a Brooklyn Nets podcast, so we have some Nets stuff to discuss. But when did you mentally accept that the Knicks had won the championship? And when you watched that game, I mean, were you by yourself? Were you with your significant other? Were you with friends? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I think I mentally accepted it after game two. I think going into me and my wife Lauren, we took a nice trip to Asheville where we got our puppy in the same area, and we watched game seven because I'm like, and she's a great sport of watching a lot of Nets games. My dad and her and myself, where we kind of split, the tickets and who goes, and I bring friends sometimes, I bring Lauren or vice versa. And so she sits through a lot of Nets basketball, a lot of bad basketball this year, and it's great about watching at home. So yeah, on this trip, I'm like, we got to watch Game Seven. It was a great game, but once I was rooting for OKC for all the reasons we've discussed, just the experience, even with the injuries. I'm like, you know what? They've been there before. They can at least give the Knicks a good fight. So after that, I was already like, this is not looking good. And then after the game two, off the back, Wemby off the back of Stefan Castle. It's just when you have that type of turnover, right? This is the finals. You don't get that back. So it's one thing to have a game one stolen, but when you make a mistake in game two like that, and I remember watching game four, and I have a Knicks fan friend from Twitter, very nice guy, and he was really down at halftime. And I was like, listen, I went to KD game five versus the Bucks, not the toe on the line one, but the one where he had 49 points. Very similar, where the Nets were down a lot to the Bucks at halftime. And in playoff basketball, if you have more talent, you can make up the grounds in this new style. So, yeah, really game two. I was like, the Knicks are going to find a way one way or another, which gave me more peace, I think, going into the last two games because I wasn't like the Spurs are going to get this done. You just could tell that they were outmatched.
I think that's very interesting because that was the moment where the Spurs showed their immaturity. Where
Yeah,
that turnover because the Knicks had the only moment the Knicks had like that in this series was the Josh Hart missed layup and it didn't
yeah,
even matter at the end of the day. So that moment, yeah, I would tend to agree with you, and I say that because the game was a game four when this was a, I think it was game four when the Spurs were up 29.
yeah, nine, yeah,
I was texting my brother Nick, who's co-host the show when he's available. I was texting him. I said 29 is not enough. I go, if they can push it to 35 or 40, I will feel much better. But if it's if the third quarter starts and the Knicks get that sucker to 22, 24 and within 2, 3 minutes, it's not a good sign. And that's exactly what happened. And I think to your point, I thought that way because game two, that turnover, that that turnover can rear its ugly head in so many different forms. A big lead, giving up a big lead is one of them. So for me, that
Yeah,
was the moment when they were up big. I just didn't think they were going to hold on to that lead.
more teams need to think, and this isn't just to give myself props because I think it's the right way to think about games, is don't think about the lead difference, but get to like a point, right? When the Spurs had 76 points at the end of the half, which is awesome, they were thinking, should it be like, we're up on the next 29? It should be like, we need to get to 115 because this Knicks team can score 110 points, even if they only had, 50 in the first half. They can get 70 points or they could get 60 points, maybe not 70, but they could score 30 a quarter. And the Spurs, of course, only did 30 in the entire second half, right? They ended up at 106.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of inexperience. And Mitch Johnson, letting the game not change with 3-point shots. And yeah, so we could talk about this for forever, but I watched the last couple games with my wife here at home, just because like, yeah, it's not a party for us. It's not a celebration. I don't want to go to a bar and see a bunch of Knicks fans just, having a great time. I got a lot of texts though, so many texts.
I went to bed right after. I said to everyone, have a great night, enjoy your party. I can't. Music was blasting, guys were dancing. Look, we're not Knicks fans, so we're not good. We didn't enjoy it, but we both acknowledge greatness, Corey and I. And I will
Yeah.
say to everyone who listens to this show, who's a Knicks fan, who's going to the parade, be careful. That's all I got for you.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about the other team in New York, and yes, they do exist, and that's the Brooklyn Nets. So this is as we mentioned a low point if you're a Nets fan. I mean, obviously the lottery happens. We don't have to relive that. We have the sixth pick, and then the Knicks win the finals. So we're gonna check in on Nets Twitter following the Knicks finals win. Corey, I'm gonna read you a tweet, and I want your reaction. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Anthony Puccio at a Pooch tweeted, Nets fans endured 62 losses this year just to end with the sixth pick and a Knicks championship.
I love Pooch.
He's not wrong.
uh, Yeah, my response to that is like when you play the tanking game, right? This is what you expect. Which is also, I mean, to give Bob Windrum of Nets Daily and I think Steve Lichtenstein of who I love his writing, a lot of credit. It is a lottery, right? And so yes, we had to endure the 62 losses. We had the best odds. The ping pong balls didn't go our way. What's important now is what are we going to do with the sixth pick, right? And what are we going to do, not just with six, but we have 33 and 43 as well. So it's like, got to move on. I was cried the day that we had the draft lottery come in. I was watching it at my folks' house, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna have a whiskey after. Just and then the second that I saw the logo, I'm like, pour the drink now because I gotta start. It sucked, but what can you do? They did everything they could to get in the best spot they could.
I had my wife's family over and I went to the other room to watch it and they heard me scream and her grandparents asked her what was wrong and she said, don't ask.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was tough. But we're gonna get to the draft picks in a bit. I have this next tweet is Jake Asman at Jake Asman tweeted, and this might be my favorite tweet of all of these I read. The hardest job in sports right now is being the Brooklyn Nets director of ticket sales.
yeah, real tough. Get better for the Barclays. I will say that to defend us Net fans in Barclays Center, there was the game last year where it was Nets versus Orlando, where Yegor went on like a hot streak and almost won it. And I remember everyone be like, "Don't win because we want to tank." But the arena was rocking. So again, they got to give us a product it doesn't have to be Knicks good, but it has to be fun to watch, and then you'll sell more tickets. Good luck over the next month. Hopefully the front office gives them something to work with because right now it's a tough sell.
I'll tell you this: I doubt Jake Asman was going to too many regular season Nets games. So he's tweeting purely based on speculation. Corey Cantor is at the games. The place is rocking. That was the game that Jaeger hit like what, two or three threes within a minute. That was an awesome moment. That might have been the best moment of the season last year.
Yeah, the fit like the actual diehard net fan just wants something to cheer for, and it can get loud. And I think bringing the block back is a smart thing, but again, it goes to product, and it's like put players on the court. I think people will gravitate. I mean, you hear the Wolf howls for Danny Wolf, and I think some of the previous work in Josh Minot and Jordy will start to pay off this upcoming season. But yeah, right now it's like it's. I don't know about a worse condition to have to sell tickets in. I feel for those guys, but they should give us better rates.
There you go. This next one is coming from Doug Norrie. And I like this one. This is a pretty
Yeah.
detailed one. Nets fandom since 2021, a generational run of punishment. Harden hurts his hamstring versus the Bucks. Kyrie sprains ankle right after. KD's toe on the line. Kyrie COVID vax chaos. Harden traded for Ben Simmons. Simmons sucks. Kyrie traded for basically nothing. KD traded for a lot. Mikal Bridges traded to the Knicks for 5 picks. 72 and 168 over the last 3 seasons. Fall to eighth in draft. Take Jaeger Joman and 9 other point guards. Finish bottom three, get sixth pick this year. Knicks win a title in one of the coolest NBA runs ever. It's more of an opinion on
Mhm.
coolest. What did I miss?
Yeah, I remember responding to Doug and saying, "What about Joe Harris going cold?" And I'm a big Joey Buckets fan, but going cold in that game. Um, Yeah, it's been rough. I mean, some of that stuff, like the McHale trade and the KD trade, that I mean, that was when we talk about the positive, of Sean Marks. Those trades were awesome. So, like, I think you make them both any day. But yeah, you're at the highest heights, and now we're in the lows. I mean, I think the good news is a lot of teams go through this, and you can bounce right back up. So I'm hoping this is the low point, and we don't continue digging deeper. But we'll see.
Yeah, I like that one. It's funny. Like you're right. The Mikal Bridges traded to the Knicks, that was a positive. But then like you can even put on the very bottom, Mikal Bridges wins a finals, and I don't know if you saw, is wilding out on Instagram.
Yeah,
Or
I heard
one of the
yeah,
lives or
something.
something.
Yeah, I didn't watch it. No desire. One of my friends sent it to me. He's like, "Oh, look, I'm a big Coldplay fan," and he's like, "Oh, he likes Coldplay too. You should hate him less." I'm like, I'm just not going to listen to Instagram Live. I'm just gonna, pass on
I
that.
saw a few quotes and I didn't listen to it because I just can't. Yeah, I'm seeing it from afar. I'm like peeking. I'm not actually gonna watch any of the content, but I'll read. The headline.
The one McHale thing I'll say, and I sent this to a bunch of Knicks fans. I'm like, thank God he wasn't the one who hit the, OG bank shot in because I I I don't think Bridges changed the series enough for like I don't go to sleep at night being like, oh, the Nets caused this. I think the OG trade was probably going to go down as the most important of those. And you do have 5 first round picks and a swap. Still got we still got 3 picks left and the swap, which swaps don't matter, man. I mean, we'll come back and talk about it in 3 years, but
No, I'm on the same page as you. I think one could argue that they probably still win the title without Mikal Bridges in the playoffs. Probably. The other thing was when I read you all the Knicks, I think I read Mikal like fifth or I called him a top 10 role player, but there's 4 guys on this team that meant more to what New York did than Mikal Bridges. It's Josh Hart, Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby. And you can even make an argument for Mitch Robinson if you really wanted
Robinson,
to. I
yeah.
think I think they were probably
I
on
think
the same
Bridges, yeah.
level.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. I got 2 more tweets for you. Nets Muse at Nets Muse writes, my mom asked if I'm going to the parade on Thursday. And then he posted a picture of Kevin Durant in a Nets jersey with a caption that said, "Let me die."
Yeah, no, I think I'll be staying out of Manhattan that day. Yeah, listen, like you said at the top, be safe, have a good time.
That's very well put. And then lastly, and this is a former guest of the podcast. I had him on when he was a Nets fan. He wrote, this is Frank Fleming at NJ Tank 99. And for those who don't know, Frank became a Knicks fan in 2023. He tweeted, I made the right decision. Nets are hopeless, have no heart, and have no pride. Won't make playoffs for the next decade. And he wrote this on April 22nd, 2023. So he wrote it
Oh,
3 years ago.
oh, really?
That
Wow. So we're 3 years in. I was going to say I'll take the decade from now that we're going to make the. I think we're going to be a playing team next year. But yeah, we'll get into all that. Yeah, it is a tough time to be a Net fan. But you know what? It's easy to hate. I mean, that New York Times article really got me upset and riled up just because Nets are the only New York related team that reporters enjoy punching down to. And I'm not even including Knicks fans on this. Not, I don't know psychologically why it is, but you don't see like, oh, we're going to hate on Islanders fans or, oh, the Met fans with a little brother, we're going to hate on that. The Jets and the Giants have both been, I'm a Giants fan, both atrocious. So maybe they're just so bad on both ends that there's nowhere to punch. Um, but yeah, a lot of people just get enjoy. I mean, clearly Barclays sells out every night, so there must be only 20 of us there and 20 seats.
So I got two things to that. Number one, the fact that they punch down, it means that they care and it means that they're a little bit envious. I don't know what it is. I wouldn't say Knicks fans are envious, but for some reason, the media members, they just, there's some hate us because they ain't us thing that like, I feel like as it's fun. Look, and this is the second part of it. My wife tells me, she goes, like, good for you being a Nets fan. It's very easy to be a Knicks fan. It was easy for Frank Fleming to defect and go to the Knicks. That took very little effort to say, I'm going to root for the more popular team in New York. Now, we take pride in rooting for the team in New York that moved there in the last 16 years. They're a more recent team. We do have to go up against one of the more popular teams historically in the NBA. But every year, our fans are showing up. Corey Cantor's coming on the Spenny and the Nets podcast. Like Doug Norton, we still have a nice community of people that, and I think for some reason the media hates that. The media hates that we exist, and like I think when they make these comments, they're making them towards us. They're making them towards the people that care about this Nets organization that do exist.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I'll add my buddy Mike Biseglia, who's a co-host of Bad Weather Fans, who literally he's no longer on Twitter. Maybe I'll send this to him so I'll listen to it and tell him. But he goes on, and that's Nick's podcast, a form of self masochism for the past couple years, and then especially during their playoff run, because he cares about the Nets so much. And I know he's sleeping more easily because this Knicks run. There's an element of it being over that feels good too, because even though there'll be the parade, and Knicks fans will have this forever, there's a part of me that's like, we didn't cause this, and so less of that guilt. But yeah, I think Net fans really do believe in the team, and that's why I think, and I'm hopeful, but we can note why I have some concerns. Let's give us a good team. We're not expecting to be the Knicks or the Celtics next year. But I use the Knicks Randall year or even the Nets 2018, 2019 team as an example of like, that's where I want to be next year. I want us to be a fun team, have, some role players, a lot of younger players, and just go for a 500 season, right? Go for play-in and make it enjoyable and show us that, you're a front office that can still be trusted with the keys.
Yeah, I think it's doable. Like you look at some of these teams that made the playoffs this season. Orlando is a younger team. I mean, they're not like obviously they made the trade for Bain, but I'm even thinking before the pre Desmond Bain Orlando team when it was Paulo and Franz and they got to the postseason that year. And
Yeah.
I think they lost to Cleveland last year. Um, Atlanta is a younger team. Like, yeah, they had CJ McCollum, but he was there for half the year. There are these younger teams that'll shock you. I don't think anyone when the season started thought the Hawks were going to be in the playoffs.
No, and the
So it
Hawks
is
are.
doable.
Yeah, it's a perfect example too because Rich Shashir has been kind of a bust, and later I'll hate on native ends, but it really Jalen Johnson is a native end type of like wasn't drafted top. I forget what number he was at, but he wasn't a top. Was he top five or was he way down the line?
Who, Brunson?
No, no, Jalen Johnson on
Oh,
the
Jalen Johnson. He was I want to say top 10.
here. Let's we got Google here.
Take
It's
a
always
look.
fun to Johnson draft spot. But you can get a lot of good people in that 6 to 10 range. So Jalen Johnson was the 20th overall pick
20th.
in the
Okay.
first. Yeah, and again, maybe he'll end up being their second best player in like a far run, but he's been great for them. So that's what I think Net fans deserve for next year.
100%. And that's a great segue. So let's get into some Nets news. This was tweeted by AP Hoops at AP Hoops. And before I read this, obviously Nets fans have been going back and forth on social media for weeks about who the Nets should take at number six. There's a lot of guys. But according to AP Hoops, the favorite to be selected with Brooklyn Nets number six overall pick is Louisville guard Mikal Brown Jr. per Connor Long. League sources tell Nets Daily, our guy Bob Wintram, the current favorite is Louisville's Mikal Brown Jr. Several league sources have expressed how well Brown Jr. fits the Nets' future vision, adding that he firmly fits the mold of what Jordi Fernandez looks for in his players, largely due to his playmaking ability and spot-up shooting, coupled with strong defensive traits. Corey, are we liking the Nets leaning more towards Mikal Brown Jr.?
Yeah, I think he'd be a home run at six. And the way I've thought about this draft is particularly for the sixth pick, and even though we drafted all these guards, I think that you have basically two guards who I think would be qualify as a home run, meaning the Nets should have the ability to pick one, in my view. And to me, and maybe this is a lot of listening to Eric Slater and Locked On podcast, but I think Mikal Brown Jr. and Keen Wagler are the two who just to me feel like Nets, and they're different enough from Yegor where I think they'd be complementary. I think Wagler is a little bit more duplicative, but the more I've read about him, I think he has some important differences. And Mikal Brown Jr. complements Igor even better because he's a different type of guard, good size. Now that the injury stuff I think is behind him, that's important. Less of a sample size, right? So I think what you'll see about all these guards in the 5 to let's say 9 range is none of them are a guarantee. And we could talk Acuff and Flemings, and they have different positives that these guys don't have. But ultimately, the draft is kind of a gamble on your scouting and on the players. And I think Brown has the nice mix of probably the highest ceiling, tied with Wagler, and probably a decent floor absent injury. So I'd be really excited if they called him at six. There's also been more heated talk about him going to the Clippers, but there's begun, and I'm curious in your take, Spencer, on like almost this little mini mystery going on between we know the top four, and I'd be shocked to see if like any of those guys fell out to five or six. But the Clippers, Nets, and Kings are almost like all playing a game of chicken and musical chairs between, the Clippers have been connected to Wagler, but then suddenly this week they're talking about Mikal Brown Jr. as well. The Kings are desperate for Acuff, but worried the Nets, might take him because the Nets have been linked to him. And the Nets, meanwhile, and to give Marks a lot of credit, no one knows what they really want. And they could be looking at all these same guards or completely veering off into Nate Ament, Kareem Lopez land. They were also tied to Kinston Flemings earlier in this process. And I've kind of come around on him. I was first in, then I was out after his measurements. Now I'm kind of back in. I think Brown is the best kind of bet for the Nets. But if he was taken at five and Wagler fell to us, I think he'd be a great pick too.
Yeah, yeah. Billy Reinhart came in on the show about a month ago, right after we got the sixth pick, and his vote is for Wagler. He likes Wagler's build just make and overall scoring ability. He thinks he's the most NBA ready. I don't know if he said NBA ready, but he likes that pick the best. I kind of agree with you. I think Mikal Brown Jr. To me, I think he'd probably be the starter over Traore come week
Yeah.
game one. Uh, from the highlights I've seen, he seems like a high IQ type of player. And yeah, like if you're gonna go for a guy, this is the year you go for the guy that can lead this team. Jaeger had a good enough year where you can see him being part of the future. If you can score at point guard, and then you have a true one in the point guard, a true two or three in Jaeger, and you can get the the right veteran pieces around those guys, whether it's MPJ or somebody else. I think that's a good start. I think it would be. Are there any wild card picks? I know that AD Moore, the kid from Michigan, has been bouncing around name wise. Are there any other names that you wouldn't be shocked to see that Kareem Lopez? You wouldn't be shocked to see Marks take at six?
Yeah, I mean, Nate Ament is the biggest one that I've heard again and again, and talking to reporters and talking to other net fans. And again, my issue with him is less so about the player himself. I think just like Yegor, he probably ends up being quite good. It's more so that at the sixth pick, where you want a guarantee to go for a project player, just feels like too big of a risk. And my concern with Marks is a guy who likes to gamble in general when it comes to the draft. What's interesting is two of his traits that he does the most is he likes to gamble on projects who he thinks will turn out well. He also likes to sometimes go for players who had injuries who are falling further than they should, which actually Michael Brown Jr. would fall into that category, right? The Karis LeVert, or when it works, or Isaiah Whitehead. Tariq Whitehead, when it doesn't. So I meant what I've been begging, and you've seen me tweet too much of this today as I go through my mini existential crisis. Like, someone tell me the good traits about this guy of why we should pick him with the sixth pick. This isn't like Ward pick 11, 12. I think Kareem Lopez and Ament at 11, 12 is a slam dunk. But these guards are so good. And to your point on Traore, who I like, we're just not good enough as a team right now to say like Traore has won the starting point guard position. And at the end of the day, if he is good enough to compete, he'll win the spot. I think Jordy very much is that type of coach. And on Brown Jr., he had this quote maybe a month ago after the combine where he said, "I want to be coached hard. I want to be, really pushed. I like coaches." I mean, I think someone was joking, like, did Jordy Fernandez write this quote? Because he just seems like a Jordy type guy. I think, meanwhile, Acuff is a mystery to me in terms of the Nets fit, more so because you see some troubling stuff on the defensive, the way he talks about it. I've also had people say he's an amazing kid and basically would be a superstar in his own right. He doesn't feel like the Nets pick in terms of like what they do traditionally, but maybe there's a part of them that's like, okay, the next one we got to throw out the old kitchen table on it. Ana De Mara, he feels like an Atlanta Hawk to me. Like it just feels like maybe if the Nets were a little bit lower, if they trade down, they've got both Claxton and Dayron, and it's already pretty. And that's before like Wolf, right? And so if you look at the positions that the Nets need, really it's guard or forward that they need to fill. Yeah, who do you think that they're going to go for, or who from the people you've been talking to?
I like Mikael Brown Jr. I like that pick. I would like Acuff Jr. I think both those picks would make sense to me. They'd be an upgrade on what you currently have. Other than that, I think I'd be disappointed. I would. I don't. I Wagler seems okay, but I don't necessarily think him and Joman and Michael Porter Jr. make sense. Those three guys in the offense. He seems like a guy who wants the ball in his hands to score. So for me, I prefer either Mikael Brown Jr. or Darius Acuff Jr. out of Arkansas. Now, Corey, we have a surprise guest who's about to enter the podcast. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, sure.
You brought him up earlier. Ladies and gentlemen, the
Oh,
guy who's not on X anymore, Mike Biseglia,
wow.
joins
What's
the
up?
show, host of or co-host of the Bad Weather Fans. Mike, welcome to Spenny and the Nets.
Hey, what's up,
Wow.
Ben, Corey, two of my favorite people in the whole world. What's up, guys? How y'all doing? Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me on for the fun.
Oh, this is great.
You
Corey, you
know,
got more grays than I remember last time. You all right?
It was a tough playoff run, man.
What happened?
You haven't been Twitter in a long time, but I don't know if you noticed the Knicks won the championship.
Not in my world.
Mike, Corey brought your name up earlier, and I thought who better to join me and him in this misery than one of the biggest Nets fans I know. I don't think there's another human being who takes these Nets losses aside from Justin, who was on the podcast like a month and a half ago. Mike, you remember
Yeah,
Justin?
yeah, he was
So
awesome. Good guy.
Justin and Mike and Corey and me, but Mike's in that realm. Like, Mike, how are you doing, man? Because you co-host with Alex. I'm sure Alex is over the moon. I haven't seen a ton of his content. I guess it just hasn't been in my algorithm.
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
control the algorithm. So I guess talk to me a little bit about what you're going through.
Yeah, you can hear me okay out here. It's not
Yeah,
terrible.
you said you're coming in clear.
Okay, good. Yeah. Honestly, like a big I had a lot of anxiety about the Knicks winning a championship. Like it's something that have impacted my life negatively, like and took control and too much, to be honest. Eliminating social media did help that. It tempered it a little bit. This playoff run obviously was miserable. But the weird part is they won the title, and I actually felt this sense of relief that it was over. And it's like it happened. Not that I love it, but at the same time, I felt okay. And I mean that. And this is not like some coping mechanism or me trying to minimize anything. For me personally, I actually feel a lot better that it's over. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't know what, I mean, I kind of know why, but I'm like almost more proud to be a Nets fan after everything that we saw and trendy people, people that didn't care, people that did care. Like, I'm now more proud to be a Nets fan than I've ever been. And it's something about the Knicks winning the title that pushed me even more to be like, yeah, that's not my thing, man. I'm not part of that clique. I'm not part of that. I didn't jump on the bandwagon. I wasn't part of it 40 years ago, disappeared for 30 years ago, re-jumped on the bandwagon. I'm a Nets fan. I always will be. And I actually feel more pride being a Nets fan than I ever have.
Corey?
Yeah, I mean, right there with you, Mike. It is that sense of relief that we don't have to hear about the next game, and I think I'm going to go full blackout on Thursday. But yeah, I think Net fans just have a nice way of analyzing the sport and give credit where credit's due. And you've done a great job of that on your podcast with like it's not easy to go into Knicks land every single week and deal with their insanity. And to my local Knick fan, like credit, I haven't gotten too many snarky texts, although my brother-in-law was like, "You haven't congratulated me yet." I'm like, "Oops, I thought I sent the text, but I guess not." It's I'm ready to get back to like off season. And I think
Yeah,
Mike, you said this like a couple of like months ago where it's like the worst has happened now, right? Like it's there's nothing else they can do to us anymore.
exactly. Yeah, no, that part of it is over. And now it's focus on the Nets, right? Like we still love them, and this is where they are in the rebuild and their draft pick, the trade rumors, where they're going in free agency. All of it is exciting because they've been pretty much gone for the last 3 months, and the last month, 2 months of the season was all tank. So at least for this point now, moving forward, we can talk about the Nets and agree or disagree on what they're gonna do, but at least there's something tangible to talk about.
Yeah.
Mike, are you good to stay on for the rest of the show? We got a few more topics.
Yeah, let's hang.
Perfect.
I'm chilling.
Perfect.
I'm good spot.
All right. I thought this was interesting. This has been floating around on X via the media. Austin Reeves, a potential free agent acquisition for the Brooklyn Nets. Assuming, let's say, the Nets take Mikael Brown Jr. or Darius Acuff Jr. So we get the point guard. It's the point guard. It's Jaeger Joman, and then we can kind of use an Austin Reeves type player. Does that excite either of you guys? Corey, we can start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I- anytime you get more talent, I think Reeves is Brunson like in that we have to look for the people who need the big opportunity, right? And I think he is a great player. He also came from like second round or undrafted, I think, to get to where he is. Why I'm skeptical of the Reeves report stuff is one, Lakers have new ownership, right? And they can't afford an embarrassment this early on. And that's when you see teams overpay. And so I think it'll come down to like, does Reeves want to run his own team? Or does he just want the paycheck? And the kind of news leaking this early makes me lean towards like he wants the paycheck because you saw even while we were recording, there was some stuff out about Walker Kessler reaching an impasse with the Utah Jazz on a contract extension. So this is like money season, negotiation season. This isn't, we're ready to leave yet. But yeah, Nets fans who are like, oh, I don't want Austin Reeves or oh, we're going to overpay him. One, it's Joe Size Money, who, by the way, as an owner, has been very much willing to pay. And two, he'd be the most talented player we have on the team, like immediately, or tie with Porter Jr. So I don't know what the argument is.
Yeah, I don't understand if you are against it. What are your alternatives? Like, what is your big long term goals? They have one draft pick. That's it. And then it's more development. At some point, you do need to add talent to the roster. Maybe it's because the Nets signed Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in one fall swoop and brought in the mega superstar talent. That didn't work. And there's not necessarily one way to do it. The Knicks did it this way in a sense where they signed where they signed Julius Randle, they signed Jalen Brunson, they signed guys that weren't at the time superstar players, but were good players that improved their roster, and then through shrewd moves ended up doing what they did. And Jalen Brunson turning into one of the best players in the history of all of that stuff. So that all went right. But from a net perspective, you got to bring in talent. You got to get guys that can actually play basketball. And from there, you just start seeing who works, who doesn't, make moves, keep lateral movements up. You have to take some chances and some swings. And for anybody else that's like, I wouldn't pay Austin Reeves that much money. Everybody gets paid a lot of money now. This is not 2006. This is not 2002. This is not 2016. People are making 70, 80 million dollars. So if Reeves makes 35, 40, that's just the market for what he is valued at. And you have to spend the money. You can't tank. Now, I agree with Corey. I don't think it's going to happen. But if it did, like, that's a step in the right direction. Bringing in a guy too that maybe can take a leap forward, continues to get better, and then all of a sudden you got something. So you got to take some swings and see what happens.
There's a
Mike,
yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say it's a really good point, and you need these type of all the shit we get for like, oh, five, picks last year. I'm telling you, if you put an Austin Reeves in there, suddenly Danny Wolf is open a lot more and looking a lot better, or Ben Suraf, who I thought showed a lot of defensive improvement towards the back half. I mean, he was guarding Brunson in that last Nets Knicks game and did a pretty solid job. So like all these people that the media have been hating on, or Nick fans or whoever, right? A lot of them are going to be role players. The goal of drafting five people isn't, I mean, I can't think of your chances at 20, 19, 25, 26. Those are role players you're going for, right? Not superstars. People will be put in a much better spot. They played already a lot better when Porter Jr. was there. The other player who the Nets have been linked to, who I've also had fans be like, oh, we don't want to overpay him, is Peyton Watson of the Nuggets. And I'm like, similar to Mike's reaction, where it's like, you know what? To get a restricted free agent, you got to overpay a little bit. So they got to take some risks and just upgrade the talent.
I did see Rui Hachimura's name floated around. Any thoughts on old Rui?
Not as exciting as the other two names that Corey had mentioned, but still upgrade in talent. And then it would just depend on the contract and what they're giving out. That would be a little. That's probably your plan B, your plan C. But at the same time, you have to bring in talent. You got to fill out the NBA roster. It is. They went last year with 5 rookies and played them a lot of minutes, 19, 20-year-olds, and they lost a lot of games. Those guys are going to be better, some better than others. We'll see what happens. We'll see who improves. It'll be exciting to see who ends up being more of a role player and getting extended minutes and can play in this league. But at the same time, yeah, they need guys. They need people that can get on the court. They're not going to tank. So if it's Rui, it wouldn't excite me as much, but at least it's better than what we have seen. And I think if you're a Net fan, at least going into next year, like, you're going to be competing. You're going to see Jordy trying to coach and not have like this restraints on him. So that'll be, kind of a lot more enjoyable, I think. There's just there's just no way. Yeah, it could be worse.
Are you leaning any which way at number 6, Mike? Me and Corey talked about that in depth earlier.
I I mean, I'd be lying if I knew these guys more than what I've just read in the surface level. I just think for them, just don't take any like crazy wild card out of nowhere picks where it's like a guy that you didn't think would be there. And oh, the mocks had him at 17, but they love his size and his versatility and that he's really a nice human being. Like, at some point, just stick to the script of there's 3 or 4 guys that are in that space. If there's one you like over the other, go for it. You know, it does feel like Brown is the guy right now based on all indications, but who really knows? For me, it's just don't go out of the box and go crazy. Like, I can't tell you which one of these guards is going to have a better NBA career, and I won't lie and pretend to. I know who's on the list. You know who's going to be available once the first 4 are off the board. Just don't do something kind of stupid. Just take somebody that's right there. Project it. If it's because his defense isn't good enough, he slips, or if it's because you don't think he has the size. Like, there's going to be debate all over the place. But I'm just asking the Nets not to do something insane and just take a pick and let's see, roll the dice, and we'll see what happens. It's all a crapshoot at that point, in my opinion. Just don't do something where you're like the kid from Michigan, or like just don't do any of that shit.
I think Nathan Ment is the only one I'm worried about them taking. He's the Tennessee forward who's been linked to the Bucks a lot. So he's popped up on a lot of net stuff. And when I've talked to, like, let's say Nets
Put them right
related
on real quick.
Nets related reporters, I feel like half of them are like he's really in consideration, and then a few other people who I really trust are like if they don't go point guard, like that's who you go with, but the point guards are who they're mostly looking at.
Is Keaton Wagler's not a point guard though? So, because to me,
Yeah,
if they're gonna go one or the other, like Wagler's just ranked higher than Ament, right?
yeah. Wagler is considered a guard though. I mean, I think
Okay,
he would
I meant
play.
forward.
Yeah, I meant would be the first forward, and
Got
Lopez
it.
is in that category as well. Although, like that almost feels like too cute, Sean Marks. But yeah, Mike, I'm totally with you, man. I think if they said day of, like Kingston Flemings has been falling a little bit, but they're like, hey, we worked him out, and this is the guy, even though he
Right.
measured X way, like we don't know, right? He could be the best
Right.
of all of them.
Exactly.
Um, we're gonna round out the pod. I have this segment because the Knicks won, so I figured I was gonna make a starting five of players that played for the Nets and the Knicks. So I'm gonna
Okay.
read you guys my starting five. I'm gonna give you a little bit of time to think about yours. You're gonna hear my players. If you would modify it, if you would choose five different guys, it's totally up to you. So we're gonna get started.
Okay.
At point guard, Jason Kidd. At shooting guard, Landry Shamet. At small forward, Mikal Bridges. At power forward, Bernard King. At center, Chris Dudley.
So this is all
Oh,
time played on either roster.
Correct. That is the game.
Um, Man, it's interesting when you say that because there's guys I want to pick, but I love them so much as Nets. I don't want to put them on the list because then it would recognize that they were Knicks.
Jason Kidd
So,
was a shell of himself in New
but he
York.
still was there, and it's representing that he was. Like the other one that I thought of was Kmart right away. Obviously, he's my favorite
Kmart
man
was
of all time.
he was on the Knicks. When was that? I
He was on the kid team when they
he
made
was
their
on,
little run.
wait, on the Knicks kid team in addition to
Yeah, he
the
was there. Yeah, Kmart was there.
oh my God. I
Man,
mean, that's gotta be
I just broke some news for you, Corey.
yeah, no, I don't even remember. It was such a blip on the
Um, but all right, yeah, I won't use that as excuse. I'll go kid at the one. Um, we'll go Van Horn at the three. We'll go Kmart at the four. At center,
That
man,
was a tough one for me.
Dudley's a good pick. Um, I like your Chris Dudley. I'd have to think about who else was there. And then at the two, um, come back to me. I got to keep thinking. My brain's
Okay.
starting to blank.
I got your three written down, Mike. Corey, do you have the team in your head right now?
I don't even know now, but besides the more modern players who are on both. Yeah, I mean, Kidd is definitely your starting guard. I think Van Horn. Maybe you move Bridges to the shooting guard spot, right? Because you can kind of put him wherever. Bernard King, and then yeah, are there any other centers besides who is on both?
Dikembe,
Or
Dikembe,
yeah, maybe Dikembe. I think that's sure.
Mutombo.
Yeah,
On the
historically,
Knicks.
yeah, pretty good. Yeah, I thought you were going to go with like your who are the five best all timers now, meaning between the Nets and Knicks. If you did a starting five, like meaning on one of the teams, but
We can
uh,
do that too. We got time. I like that as well. Did you guys so okay, you had Dikembe at your five, and then
I'll
yeah,
Mike,
do
did you pick
We'll put
a
Marbury at the two. We'll let him play
I
off the
like
ball.
that. Okay. Okay. Okay,
He's
perfect.
all of a sudden Mr. Nick again. So
All right, so I guess
whatever.
the top five between these two teams. Corey, let's start with you.
yeah. So I mean,
I gotta write that down.
Like in
yeah.
modern
This
times, Spin
I guess Corey, what
all
was
time.
you were going for all time, right?
I was going for all time. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Um,
Let's do it.
and this is where I mean, Mike, I'm even going to take what you said recently. I think you'd have to put Brunson over Kidd now that he won the championship.
Probably. But
Uh,
the thing is you gotta put like Willis Reed. I mean, the Knicks have all time guys.
Yeah, and
Like back
Julius.
in
I mean,
the day.
do you want to
Dr.
say since
J.
2000?
You gotta put
Do you want to
Dr.
say?
J in there.
Yeah, no, Dr. J would be there. Willis Reed. Is Lopez the best center that's played for either?
Yeah, Patrick Ewing's probably a
No,
little better.
Patrick Ewing. Yeah, Patrick Ewing. Yeah, who's that guy? Power forward
You know
Durant.
what? I disagree. I'll go with Brooke Lopez.
I think no, Durant. We had the best forward. Durant. I don't think.
Durant.
Yeah, and then uh thinking like other Nets like long term. Yeah, we just throw RJ in there for fun
Yeah.
because he's a great
Yeah.
guy. Nets have done good historically at power forward, but fun fact, they've never had a great center when they have a great point guard, and they've never had a great point guard when they've had a great center in
Yeah.
modern times. I feel like it was always missing during the kid era. Just waiting for
Yeah.
Brook Lopez.
No,
Who
I mean
is who is the best two guard, would you say, between the two teams? That's a tough one.
um,
Is it Kyrie? No. Is it Earl to
It
Pearl?
is Vince a forward in your
It's probably a 3.
Yeah, him and RJ were interchangeable.
Yeah, I would be lying if I said I knew enough about like the
Yeah.
70s Knicks to compare is the problem. Like I know who these
Yeah.
guys are and I've read about them and I know about them and I used to make the joke. I used to make this joke to Knicks fans. I can't make it anymore, but Knicks fans would always give me shit. They'd be like, "Oh, how many titles do you have?" And I'd be like, "0." And I'd be like, "Well, how many?" I'd be like, be like a guy in his 30s. Oh, tell me about what was the parade like? Like, tell me about what it was like in your lifetime watching it. And they'd be like, well, we have the history. I was like, I can't fucking do that joke anymore.
History, yeah, history.
Like I feel like the parade was like last week. Uh, man. Well, yeah, I'm going to be thinking of any type of self-care on Thursday.
Yeah, no way in hell I watch that. No, thank you. But honestly, just like as the gets darker and darker for me here, don't it's over. Move forward. Like there's it can't it can't hurt you. It has happened, and that's it. Like keep moving forward, and it's something that they'll always have, and it's something that we're shooting for. And when it happens for us, we'll enjoy it and we'll cherish it. But it's like I said, it's a weird relief for me that it's over, and it's like okay, now what? You still got to go back to your life. You still got to pay your bills. You still got to do all this stuff. Like it doesn't change anything. You just have something you can brag about for a little bit.
They'll
No,
enjoy
and I
it.
think,
They'll
yeah.
celebrate for like a week, and then they'll go back to their lives.
Yes.
So that's the other part of it. We just have to withstand a few days, and we'll be good. What were you gonna say,
Yeah.
Corey?
Yeah, I was going to say on the going forward part, like I guess a last like closing thought is this does feel like the first summer where like I joke about online like where is Sean Marks? Where like why is he not doing this? Or because I came up with a joke based on like how after every trade, no matter what it was, net fans are like, why did Marks do this? Why didn't he come in and grab this second round pick for AO Desuma, which was a great trade, but it's like we were trying to be bad. This is the first off season where I'm like it's time for him to perform. Like Jordy's been a great coach. We're not trying to be bad anymore. You can't hang the laurels on like, the rebuild last time. It's like go time. And it's not, swing for Giannis time, but it's time to like whether it's a Hachimura, whether it's like a trade like a Franz Wagner, get some players in here to be excited about. And give the coaching staff that's been great and the fans something to cheer for next year.
And I think a little pressure on the Nets too. I mean, the Knicks winning
Yeah.
a championship is a disaster in a lot of ways for them trying to win over a fan base. Like the whole idea was we got Kyrie, we got Durant, we got Harden. This is the time to do it, and it imploded in their face. And now there's all this young Knick fan that's just going to be all just excited about it for good reason. So the Nets need to put a competitive basketball team on the court, and I'm not saying that they're going to compete with the Knicks on the court or off of it, but they have to be better. They can't do that. They have to do something that represents somewhat of winning basketball, because you can't take so many years of just being irrelevant. They'll have us, and we'll never go away, and that there's nothing that will change that. But at the same time, like they gotta get their shit together and try.
Wise words spoken from both of you guys. Listen, their back is against the wall this season. Sean Marks, your back's against the wall. Joe Tsai, everybody in this Nets organization, the ticket sales guys, I don't care, the scouts. If it doesn't work this year and you're not competitive,
They got it.
people are going to
Yeah.
have to be held responsible. But I don't want to speak that into existence. You have a draft, you have an off
Yeah.
season, make moves. Everything Corey and Mike said are 100% accurate. Shout out to every single Nets fan out there who had to endure this weekend. We're with you. We're moving on to next season. And yeah, thank you both for coming on. This was really fun. Mike Biseglia, Corey Cantor. This was Spenny and the Nets, episode 255. Everybody have a good night.